Would I be the asshole for refusing to stop cooking bacon in my kitchen due to my teenage daughter's vegan lifestyle? Dad here, old fart, loves his daughter to pieces, but I'm struggling to see eye to eye with my teenager and wife on this one. We've always been a meat-eating family. We live in the rural Midwest, and bacon for breakfast is pretty much a given. This year, my 14-year-old daughter decided to go vegan, and I jumped onto her support team with enthusiasm. We learned how to substitute ingredients, cook new things, try new things. I adjusted our budget to include more expensive vegan substitutes for her, etc. None of this has been a problem for me until recently. She saw me cook bacon in a pan, and then I rinsed it out to load in the dishwasher. She exploded in anger. Teen years, I'm not too fussed about the anger explosion. I know she doesn't mean it, and said that it was her pan for vegan food. I was completely floored and said, kiddo, this here is a family pan. Older than you. It's not your pan. She asked me to purchase her a pan that she could solely use for vegan food. I didn't want her to feel weird about food, so I said sure, and ordered her a few colored ones that are only for her. The reason they're colored is so it helps me remember that I'm not to touch them unless I'm cooking vegan. That wasn't good enough. Now apparently the dishwasher is contaminated with animal product, and the fridge has bacon grease fingers on it because I eat bacon and then touch the fridge. And she's asked me and her mom to completely stop eating meat at home. I don't mean I literally touch the fridge with greasy bacon hands, because I wash my hands, but it's clearly enough that it upsets my daughter. Frankly, I'm on team hell no. Her mom is much more amendable and strongly wants me to consider taking our daughter up on the request. My wife's reasoning is that both our parents live so close and we can eat meat products there, and that she doesn't want our daughter to feel uncomfortable in the kitchen. My daughter says she is fine with cheese and butter in the fridge, but it's specifically meat products that make her feel sick. Now I'm sorry for her, but I feel like she just needs to adapt and live side by side, because I'm not going to stop eating bacon in my own house. Not the Get her a special sponge she can use to wash her own dishes so she didn't have to use the tainted dishwasher. Not the She's 14. There is no middle ground at 14. My condolences, as it's going to be a long winter. Had a vegan roommate in the past. He used the fridge and dishwasher just fine. Time for a real-world lesson for her. She's not always going to live with people who share her food lifestyle. She's got to learn to compromise. There is no reason to inconvenience yourselves and others because she's being a dramatic teen. Compromise. She has her own cookware and her own meat-free section of the fridge. Not the asshole. You're already being as supporting as you can, but at the end of the day, it's your house. You don't need to bend the knee to your daughter over this. Yeah, it definitely is, of course, teenagers being teenagers. Eventually, she will understand and get over it. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for wearing the joke bikini my friend got me? So it was my birthday a couple months ago and I had a party. Got some gifts. My friend Mandy got me a super cute bikini. I liked it. Said thanks. She had ripped the tags off, but whatever. Anyway, went to the community pool with my roommate, wore bikini, got in the water. Roommate immediately is like, girl, I look and see that this bikini is now kind of see-through. Haha, good joke, Mandy. Anyway, Mandy invited me over to her place to hang out with her and her BF and a few others. Most leave and we're still hanging out. I'm like, hey, what if we got in your hot tub? I go change after them and meet her BF in the hot tub. She's getting new drinks. I hop in. Immediately, he's looking at my chest. I pretend I don't notice and just make small talk. She comes out a few minutes after and just looks in shock. Eventually gets in. Is that the one I bought? Yeah, I love it. I wear it everywhere. Make up some stuff about how I wore it to the beach and some party with a lot of guys, and she's just like, oh, we're in the tub for 20 or 30 minutes. Eventually get out and change, and she approached me after and was like, I'm sorry, thought you'd notice, but it goes kind of see-through. I'm like, yeah, I know. Why'd you buy me a fucking see-through bathing suit? She's like, it's a joke. Wait, you knew? So you just spent the last 30 minutes flashing my BF on purpose? I reply, I'm just wearing my birthday gift from her. Anyways, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Plus, it's not your fault. He was blatantly staring at your right in front of her. Edit, because it still isn't clear to literally anyone, I'm saying Mandy has nobody to blame but herself for what happened. Not the asshole. She knew what kind of gift she was giving you. You were just getting her back in a harmless way. No one's gonna die from seeing Now you can all have a laugh about it. Everyone sucks here. Her for her buying you see-through clothing, and you for basically getting naked in front of her and her boyfriend. Nah, everyone sucks here if you squint. Her joke was just as harmless as yours. Not tasteful, IMO, but harmless and not holy. I don't see it as much as either of you being jerks, and more like a back and forth prank. Now you're on equal ground. Also, if her boyfriend was distracted, that's on him, not you. Obviously, it's embarrassing in the moment, but it's not going to have long-lasting effects besides maybe on their friendship. That's all I mean by harmless. That and the fact that I don't see that what she did was any worse than what her friend did. Yeah, I think this is an everyone sucks here moment for sure. I don't think anyone did anything that was, well, and good. I think it was all not malicious, but, well, maybe it was malicious, but I don't know. Am I the asshole for telling my son he deserved his girlfriend breaking up with him? So my son had a long-distance girlfriend recently for about 2 years. She was great. Really nice girl, and we all loved her, welcomed her with open arms. She was flying here constantly to visit him, like a weekend, a month, and he didn't lift a finger to go visit her. I tried talking talking to him about it several times and told him he should really start looking into flying over to her instead of expecting her to do all the traveling. He said no, and my wife probably had something to do with it, as she constantly told him she was afraid of him flying. I spoke to them both and said this girl is great for him. She was willing to move over to our country too, but said there was one condition, and that was he'd have to fly over to her country too, which is fair enough. He said no. He didn't want to fly or travel anywhere. My son was becoming lazier and lazier, and eventually telling his GF and us that he was perfectly fine never traveling anywhere, including holidays, etc. Last week, he told us she's dumped him. I went on her Facebook page as we're still friends. She wrote us an apology letter about how she's upset it didn't work out, but things happen, so we're on good terms. It looks like she's with a new guy already. Me and my wife have no doubt she was seeing him while still in a relationship with my son. I confessed to them both that I actually agree with her decision, and he should have expected it. He did not treat her properly, and I hope he learns lessons for the next one, because he needs to make more of an effort. I said he deserves it for his lack of effort in the relationship, and for essentially just allowing this girl to spend all her money and time coming here all the time. Wife and son are very upset that I said this. Very, very upset, and my wife says I'm being horrible. Am I the asshole? I stand by what I said. Not the asshole. It's the truth he needs to hear. I'm more concerned about the reaction of your wife. Does she enable your son's laziness? Yes, LOL. He's a proper mummy's boy, and I just want him to grow up, to be fair. He's 24 now. Not the asshole. He's been too lazy with the relationship anyway. The girl deserves someone better, and your son needs to know that it takes effort to make a relationship work. Not the asshole. As Lizzo says, truth hurts, lol. Not the asshole. Your son needs to learn that relationships are about give and take. He can't do all the taking, and if you needed to be the one pointing it out, then so be it. Yeah, not the asshole here at all. Your wife coddling your 24-year-old son is kind of making her the asshole, if I'm being fair. Am I the asshole telling my parents to pay me back my college tuition if they want a relationship? I was raised by parents who believed religiously and just culturally in rigid gender roles. Dad should work, mom should stay home with the kids. I'm the only girl and have 3 brothers. Because of their expectation I'd stay home with kids, they never valued my education, educational achievements, or emphasized things beyond domestic skills. I'm the second youngest, and by the time I was in high school, my 2 older brothers had gone to the college of their choice, with my parents fully covering tuition, books, an off-campus apartment, and other living expenses. They eventually did the same for my younger brother. I was told I wasn't allowed to apply for college. I did so in secret and got accepted with the partial scholarship. I didn't tell them I was moving out until a week before I left, with essentially nothing but what a few friends gave to me that their parents bought them for college. I took engineering and had to work, take on debt, and struggle. My parents and I have barely spoken for years. I'm married now and expecting our first child, and they asked to meet up. We met at a park, and they said they were sorry if they caused me pain, but would like a relationship now. I asked them specifically what they were sorry for. They wouldn't elaborate and just said they wanted to move forward. I said that wasn't sufficient. In the end, I said they could prove they were sorry by forwarding me the $100,000 my degree and college expenses were, just like they did for my brothers. My mom burst into tears, and my dad said I wasn't being serious, and I just left. Since then, I've been getting calls from my brothers telling me I'm being immature and hurtful. I don't think so at all. Not the asshole. Hi, from another engineer from a family filled with rage that she has all the talent the boys was never up to. As far as I can see, your answer to them was perfect. It was very fair, and if they have fixed their appalling bigotry issues, they would be falling all over themselves begging you to take the money. Since they clearly have not fixed their bigotry, you don't want them around your child. Never, ever poison children by allowing bigots in their presence. No exceptions. That includes your bigoted brothers. Edited to add, I have a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate all in engineering. You have no idea how angry this makes them. Hopefully you will too, and we can all watch the bigots faint from sheer rage together. Bwahaha. Not the asshole. That's a generic sorry you're upset non-apology. They're just around now because they want to influence the baby. The $100K ask is fair if they have the means to pay it. Wow. I would typically say that you would be the asshole because expecting money from a family is never a good thing, but I am making an exception here. No, you're not the asshole. Being singled out like that because you are a woman is gross, and it's terribly unfair that your brothers got a free ride and you didn't for that one fact. Good on you though for making your own way in spite of them. Not the asshole. I'm proud of you, by the way. Despite your upbringing, you persevered. Keep staying strong and standing your ground. Not the asshole. Only showing up now to save their grandchild's soul. They just want to push their crap onto the next generation. I don't see a way how anyone could see that this person is the asshole, because this person is definitely not the asshole. Am I the asshole for sleeping naked on top of the covers to teach my flatmate's GF a lesson? This should be good. New to Reddit, please bear with. So I, 21 guy, live with my childhood best friend, 22 also guy, and have done so for 2 years now. Up until last week, things were perfect between us. However, he recently got a new girlfriend, 23 lady, and she honestly seems absolutely great except for one thing. She seemingly has a complete aversion to knocking. She and I have quite a lot in common, and I actually like spending time with her. However, it bugs the hell out of me when she just barges into my room without knocking. knocking first. Now, she's never walked in on me doing anything untoward. I'm usually just chilling on my bed or studying at my desk. However, on at least 7 separate occasions now, she's done it first thing in the morning to ask if I want coffee. I sleep naked. Every time prior to the last one, I've been under the covers and she hasn't seen anything. I always point out that she could have and she just giggles and says, but I didn't. When she stayed over last week in order to make my point, I intentionally slept on top of the covers. Sure enough, she barges in at 7 a.m., begins to ask if I want coffee, and sees my you-know-what. She immediately backed out of the room and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. My mate later pulled me aside and said I was bang out of order, accused me of deliberately exposing myself, and pointed out that I'd threatened to do it before. I literally just said, okay, but what if I had no covers on and you saw everything before? They're now framing this to others that I'm some sick creep who intentionally got naked and lay in wait of her because that's how I get my rocks off. And I'm kind of seeing how it came off that way. Am I the asshole for doing this? Not the asshole. She knew it was a risk when she barged in. How is she not the pervert? Also, have you considered getting a lock? Everyone sucks here. She needs to respect privacy, but yeah, you knew full well what she would do, and rather than talk to your friend like an adult about how uncomfortable it makes you, you knowingly and deliberately exposed yourself to her. Edit, a lot of people have replied asking how it's deliberate, and I've said it a few times, but he knew she'd see him naked. He was exposed where he had previously not been exposed. And knowing she entered his room without knocking, he knew she would see him naked. His intent was that she see him naked. Edit 2. I think it may seem like I don't think she's as in the wrong, but I think she's more in the wrong. But why she sucks is obvious and requires little explanation. Spending more time explaining why I think he sucks too is necessary, and may have given the false impression that I think he's more wrong. My apologies for not making that clear in the first place. I hadn't expected for this to get more than almost no attention. Everyone sucks here. Might be that I'm the minority here, but everyone in this is the asshole. Her for not being a decent person and knocking, the BF for not explaining the rules of the house and generally letting this stuff happen, and you for being so petty as to deliberately expose yourself to your friends to make a point. I get your thought process and all that, but there were several other things that you could have done first instead of that. I mean, you did this intentionally so she would see you naked. That was your goal, even if the reason behind it was to punish her and not for sex reasons. So they're not entirely wrong. Everyone sucks here, but they suck a lot and you only suck a little. Yeah, definitely you made the big jump there, buddy. I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have talked to my friend, my childhood best friend, but no, you expose yourself to somebody without their consent. So I think everybody does suck here. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend to shut the up after she insulted my sister's thighs? I'm 30 and my 12-year-old sister is living with me right now because mom and pops are vulnerable, so it made more sense for me to care for my sis for the time being. She is really a great kid, and TBH, I feel in a lot of ways she's like my own kid because my mom and dad don't speak English, so I kind of had to raise my sis in ways that they couldn't. Hard to explain, but I'm sure anyone with a secondary culture will get what I mean. My mom and dad are great parents, but having an English-speaking person to guide you through stuff when you live in an English-speaking country is invaluable, IMO. And my sister trusts me with stuff she won't necessarily trust my parents with. Anyway, my girlfriend was FaceTiming me and my sister walked past in shorts and a t-shirt because it's hot. My GF waited till my sister had left the area, but not the room, and made a face and said, maybe feed her less OP, her thighs are kind of chunky. I saw red and told her to shut the f up. Just came out of my mouth and immediately ended the call. My sister is a bit chubby, but for fuck's sake, who says stuff like that about a 12-year-old girl? Literally everybody I know has been texting me that I'm a POS boyfriend and that how can I disrespect my girlfriend like that? I'm expecting an apology from her, but to my shock, everybody is expecting me to apologize. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. 12-year-old girls are incredibly vulnerable to body image issues. You're absolutely right to shut down such comments immediately. Not the asshole. Throw the whole girlfriend away. Family first. Are you the asshole for telling your girlfriend to shut the f up after she insulted your 12-year-old sister's thighs? Think about this. She insulted a 12-year-old. She is either a mean girl or she is jealous of your sister / relationship with your sister. Neither optic looks good. So not the asshole for telling your ex-girlfriend to shut the f up for insulting your sister. Everybody sucks here. The amount of red flag, hope she's your ex, and so on are typical of Reddit black or white replies. What she said was likely directed at OP alone and not for the little sister's ears. It could have been a poor attempt at concern or equally a mean-spirited jab. We don't know because we have no tone of voice, facial expression, or any other communication tools to judge. OP definitely overreacted though, and she put her foot in her mouth. This last guy is dumb. That's not, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for insulting a 12-year-old when you're in your 30s. Messed up, they're the asshole. Am I the asshole for telling the girl who kissed my boyfriend for a play that she is desperate and pathetic? I, 19F, study drama at uni, and my boyfriend is on the same course. My boyfriend is a really good-looking guy, but he doesn't seem to know it. He gets a lot of attention from girls, and for the most part, doesn't seem to get that they're flirting with him. I'm not generally annoyed by this and never really say anything. However, there's one girl in our class, let's call her Victoria, who is obsessed with my boyfriend. She goes out of her way to be paired with him in group activities. For example, if the professor picks groups by numbering us 1, 2, 3, she will move herself to be in the same number as him. And she recently stepped down from a main role in a play we're doing so she could be in a more minor role simply because this character has a romance with my boyfriend. I know this is the case because I heard her say to her friends that she thinks he's hot and whatnot. I've never said anything to her about it because she seems pretty insecure, always complaining about how she thinks she's ugly, and I don't see it as a big deal because my boyfriend doesn't care. However, we recently performed the play and had a small after party where she got slightly drunk and was bragging about how she definitely felt something when they kissed in the play, and she's going to ask him if he felt the same. I rolled my eyes and again ignored it until she actually went up to my boyfriend. She was a little bit drunk, and when she went up to him, I was there too. Victoria started saying that she knows he must have felt a spark. He's a really good kisser, etc. I snapped and sort of shouted at her that you sound incredibly desperate going after somebody else's boyfriend. You're pathetic if you think a stage kiss means you should be together. She looked super embarrassed and walked away, and I later heard she'd gone home crying. I feel like a because she's obviously insecure and whatnot, and her friends haven't stopped calling me a since. Am I the Edit? She 100% knows that I'm his girlfriend. I have heard her talking about me being his girlfriend before. Not the she took it way too far. Approaching him about it was out of line. Not the she was delusional, and you brought her back down to earth. Needed to happen. You tried to ignore it, but she kept pushing. Everyone sucks here. This entire thing is very teen. Hopefully you'll both grow out of it soon. Everybody sucks here. You're teenage drama students, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised that there's so much teenage drama here. But come on. You couldn't think of a more appropriate way to address this woman's relentless and obvious daily pursuit of your boyfriend over the course of weeks, if not months, than shouting at her at a party in order to humiliate her? You couldn't, I don't know, at any time just say, hey, I don't know if you realize, but boyfriend and I are in a committed relationship. You all need to grow up. Yeah, probably everybody does suck here. Definitely didn't have to take it that far. I know Victoria is definitely in the wrong, but so are you. Am I wrong for using flashcards to explain to my brother and his wife why they can't bring their rainbow baby to my wedding? Am I the a-hole for refusing to tell my husband the gender of our baby after he skipped going to the doctor's appointment with me? Am I the bad guy for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage? I, F30, don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do, and sometimes even copying me, like that one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine. And when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So, anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum, said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, fine, I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her. Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say that I was overreacting, and that his mom was there anyway, and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him that he and his mom could still go, and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me and then called my family to tell them that the trip was canceled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy. Did I really overreact? You're married to a man who was already married to his mother. You're the other woman. She was planning on sharing the hotel room and bed with y'all too? Not the bad guy, and run. Not the bad guy. You actually helped him and his mom to have the romantic getaway they really wanted. I mean, plain and simple. You gotta leave this guy, because I wouldn't want, like, my spouse to have a weird relationship with their mother like that. I wouldn't want my spouse picking their mom over me in a situation like that. That's terrible. Not the bad guy. Am I in the wrong for storming off from my sister's wedding after she dead-named my son? I'm a 45-year-old single father of 3. Their mom died 10 years ago. I have 3 sons, 17-year-old Andrew, 15-year-old Connor, and 14-year-old Max. Connor was born female. He is trans. He came out as trans 5 years ago and has now socially transitioned, not yet physically. My sister, 38F, just got married. Me and my sons were also invited. My family has known that Connor is trans for 2 years now. Some have adjusted well and some not so much. My sister is pretty indifferent about it. Her wedding was super well organized to the last detail. She wanted all the men to wear a shirt and tie and then women sundresses. I texted her a picture picture of our outfits the day before the wedding, and she said, "Where's Naya's dress?" I was a bit surprised, and I told her not to dead name my son, and that he'll be wearing a shirt and tie like the rest of the men there, or we aren't coming. She said fine, and that was it. At the reception, my sister got mad that Connor was wearing a tie, but didn't say much after that. When we sat down at our table, the card Naya, I went to my sister, and she said she used their real name. I told her me and the boys are leaving, and she told me, "Don't you dare cause a scene at my wedding. Naya can be a guy any other day." I called her a bigot, and we left. My family says I ruined her wedding. With an attitude like that, I'm sure the sister will be a bride again before long, so ruining this wedding was no big issue. You stood up for your kid. That makes you a wonderful parent. Definitely not in the wrong. Yeah, I mean, how could you be in the wrong here for standing up for your trans son? Like, that's, gives me the freaking heebie-jeebies, man. Like, I am physically disgusted by that woman, you know? It's just gross. Trans rights, by the way. Am I the jerk for silently getting up and walking out of the restaurant during New Year's Eve dinner after I was told to pay for everyone at the table? My in-laws? I, F32, recently inherited a good amount of money from my mom. I keep the money in a separate account as I still haven't decided what to do with it, and I didn't want it to go to waste. I noticed my husband constantly bringing up the inheritance money and making countless suggestions as to how I should spend it. Another thing is that he expects me to pay for nearly everything the past couple weeks. For New Year's Eve, my husband and I met up with his family at a restaurant to celebrate. It was going fine until I found out that I was expected to pay for everyone at the table. My husband's mom joked about paying for dinner out of my inheritance pocket, which made me livid, but I showed no reaction. Just silently paid for my own food and drinks, then got up and made my way out of the restaurant. They were shouting after me like a crowd, and my husband tried to get me to come back, but I drove home. He got back at 3 a.m. yelling at me, saying I was pathetic to get up and walk out on him and his family after they relied on me to pay for their food, and thought I was gracious enough to do it, but they were wrong. He said I humiliated him and family, and that what I did was an attempt to get back at them for not being able to help mom when she was sick. Not true is all I'm gonna say. He is mad and is saying that I caused a huge rift between his family and me, when it wouldn't have hurt me to pay for the celebratory dinner. Am I the jerk? So let me get this straight. Your mother died after an illness, and the thing your in-laws take from this is great. Now she can pay for everything. Yeah, not the jerk. They act like you won the lottery and not buried your mother. I'm sorry for your loss. Oh, in-laws, in-laws, in-laws. So many horror stories about the in-laws. Why are older adults so bad? Why are old people so wrong? Am I in the wrong for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me? Me and two other guys share an apartment together, and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone is in charge of buying their own food, and we don't touch whatever doesn't belong to us in the fridge. We put our names on everything so no one gets mixed up. The issue has been going on almost a year, and I'm sick of it. One of my roommates, R, keeps stealing my food. I get home from work, and containers with my leftovers are sometimes missing. They have my name written on it. Or my stuff finishes too quick. A gallon of milk, for example. I buy almond milk because I like taste, but it seems to finish after a week, even though I've only drank once or twice. I confronted R about this lots of times, and that's caused a lot of arguments. He outright denies it and tells me I'm crazy, even though it's so obvious. My other roommate and I carpool together because we both work the same early morning shifts around the same area, so I know it's not him. It's always after we get back home, and R's already left for work, that I notice my food's gone. My roommate also had a similar problem, but not as often as I do. I'm guessing because R doesn't like what he buys. The funny thing is, R buys a lot for himself, and is even more stingy about his food. He will literally point out what's his when he comes back from grocery shopping and tell us not to touch it. Last week, my milk was nearly empty again, and I got fed up. I went to the liquor store and bought regular dairy milk. I drank what was left of my almond milk and refilled the gallon with the one I bought. This was to catch/prove R is the one stealing since he's lactose intolerant. The next day, Saturday, we get back from work and R is pissed. He yelled at me that he was stuck in the bathroom for 40 minutes with diarrhea because of my milk. He was using it to make a shake. I only responded, "So, then you're the one who's been stealing." He freaking exploded. Yeah, he admitted he sometimes was drinking my milk and eating my food, but he was more mad that I switched milks than the fact that he was caught. I told him I wouldn't have done that if he'd just stopped taking my stuff from the fridge, or at least told the truth instead of trying to make it seem like I was making it up. My roommate backed me up and thought it was kind of funny he got payback for stealing from us. It's a little tense right now, and my roommate told me R is trying to convince him to agree to kick me out. Little does he know, we're both looking to move somewhere else because we're tired of his stuff. I told some buddies what happened, and a few think I was an a-hole for that. I feel like I'm not in the wrong here. He was taking my food and not even owning up to it, and I wanted to prove it. Does that make me the bad guy? Not the bad guy. As you said, if R wasn't stealing your food, he wouldn't have had a problem. Not the bad guy. There's a saying in Finnish that translates to greedy ones have a end, and I think that's what happened here. I agree. Like, how could you possibly be the bad guy in that situation? Your friends sound like bad friends. Am I in the wrong for giving my ex-wife a large amount of money I won despite the anger of my girlfriend? I recently won a FU amount of money. I won't say exactly how much, but it's in the millions. It makes me feel funny, even typing. It's enough to change the life of myself and my family. My ex-wife is the mother of my 2 kids. She is an amazing woman and good to the bone. We divorced 6 years ago because I had an affair with my current partner. I was in a low place in my life and I messed up. She was in incredible pain, but like a freaking saint, she allowed me to still see our kids, who mean the world to me. Allowed our divorce to be as pain-free as possible possible despite the fact that I know she was hurting. She still is close friends with my parents. She is respectful to me, although she refuses to talk to my girlfriend. She was actually the first person I phoned after my mom and pops after I found out I won the lottery. She was pleased for me, joked that I could take kids on a world-round trip, and that was that. Nothing else. As soon as I won, I knew I wanted to give her a significant amount. I still love her. She's the mother of my babies, and I feel like this is some small tiny way I can show her that I'm not a complete mess up. She deserves to know that I care despite my mistakes. She also works a bad job in the public library, which pays her peanuts. She would actually be able to pursue her hobbies this way. Give her kids a better life between us. I haven't discussed this with my ex yet, but I have with my parents who strongly agree, and my lawyer who was very surprised but on board. Long story short, when I told my girlfriend, she was livid, screaming that I'm disrespecting her, accused me of still being in love with my ex-wife. I'm not in love with her. We've both grown apart, but of course, I still love her for being an excellent co-parenting partner and mother to my kids. My GF is threatening to break up with me, and TBH, I'm feeling incredibly relieved over the threats. I don't plan on changing my plans, but am I in the wrong? Not in the wrong. Your money, your decision. I suspect the anger from your GF is probably just insecurity given the nature of how your relationship with her started, or it could be because of the money. It could be both. Seems like that GF of yours is either a gold digger or just a bad person, or both. Am I bad for kicking out one of my bridesmaids for showing up in the wrong dress? My 23F wedding was back on Saturday, December 31st, and I'm still getting backlash from this. So I want to know if this was an a-hole move. In the country I live in, it's currently winter, and we get a fair amount of snow, so my wedding was a winter-themed wedding. The color theme was forest green and gold. My dress was obviously white, and I chose the color of my bridesmaid's dress to be forest green as well. My maid of honor's dress was black, and everyone was to wear gold accessories. I have this friend, we'll call her Kat, that I asked to be one of my bridesmaids. When we went dress shopping and I told them the color theme I was going for, Kat immediately expressed that she thought forest green was a bad choice. She said that she thinks it's not a flattering color, and I thought I should choose something different and more girly. I said no, because my wedding was winter themed, and I thought the color would go perfect with the theme. She suggested a blue, pink, or even red. I said no, but thanks for your opinion. She found out my maid of honor's dress was black and asked if she could wear black too. I said no, only my maid of honor was wearing black. I paid for all the dresses. Fast forward to wedding day, and everyone's getting their hair and makeup done, and Kat shows up 30 minutes late, holding a bag that looked like it had a dress inside. I asked her what this was for. She told me it was for later on at the reception if she got uncomfortable and wanted to change after pictures. I was like, okay, cool. So fast forward, we're all dressed and walking down the stairs because the ceremony is beginning in 30 minutes, and we were going to take some pictures before. Kat is the last person to come down, and she's wearing a black dress. At the time, I was preoccupied taking pictures with my parents, but my maid of honor came over to me and made me aware of the situation. I confronted Kat and asked her what was going on. She said she hates her bridesmaid dress, as the color is ugly and makes her look gross, so she's wearing black. I told her please go back and change. She refused and started walking away from me. I said, I'm going to ask her one more time, and if she doesn't oblige, I'm calling security and kicking her out. She began yelling at me to F off, so I called security and asked them to please escort her out. She started making a big scene, yelling about how I'm such a that I can't force her to wear anything, and that I'm a horrible, inconsiderate friend. The wedding went on, and it was truly amazing. Ever since the wedding, Kat has been blowing up my phone with texts, saying some really nasty things, and asking for the money back she spent on the black dress, since it was a waste and she didn't get to wear it. I had to block her number. Some of my other bridesmaids have been giving me crap, saying that it was a little harsh kicking her out and embarrassing her like that, and that maybe I should give her the money back. Am I wrong for kicking her out? Not wrong. You paid for her dress. She decided to do her own thing. Is she gonna pay you back for the money you spent on her? Not in the wrong. You paid for the dress. She agreed to be your bridesmaid, knowing that the dress was forest green. She was a jerk here and so rude. Telling it as it is. I mean, for sure. She is so in the wrong, and that is abysmal. Abysmal behavior from a friend. Someone who is good enough of a friend to be a bridesmaid. Am I the a-hole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? One of my 29M best friends, Carla, 31F, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard type of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now, and originally it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has lots of open space for the reception, a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. I said yes. She and her fiance Rick were very happy. Thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college, but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife. We got married. Carla met Rick, and now here they are. Now, my wife knows I went out with Carla back in college, and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not. It's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick found out recently, and not in the best way. Not sure how, but from what I heard from friends is that one mutual friend told him, no idea why, we used to date. Not only that, but apparently Carla said a couple years ago she was still in love with me, and when she was already dating Rick. Don't have actual confirmation if that's exactly what he was told. All Carla's told me is that Rick was told about our past, and he's angry at her for never saying anything. It became quite a drama, and didn't hear from her for over a month until now. She told me they're going to couples counseling, and that the wedding is still on, but Rick requested that I not attend. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable. Then I asked the obvious question, where are they going going to hold the wedding then? To my surprise, she said they still want it at our place. Rick said so too, and in my mind, I'm going, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiance years ago at the wedding, but still wants the wedding at his house? My wife and I are expected to just not be at our home that weekend, and I told Carla no. They're gonna have to find someplace else since we're not going to simply leave our home to them for the weekend. Not only for safety reasons, but it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have their wedding at my house? They really want their wedding here, though, and because of that, I've been bugged by not only her, but also Rick and some friends who think I'm being a petty a-hole for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, don't think that I am. It just doesn't make sense at all to have to leave our own place for a wedding we're no longer welcome to and leaving our home totally vulnerable. Still, being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. Am I the a-hole? How dare he ruin his wife by dating her years before they even knew he existed? /S. Like, this is just so silly. Why are weddings always like this? Why are weddings so petty? When I get married, and that's, well, if I get married, I gotta find someone who likes me. But if I have someone who's in my life who I think would pull something like this, they're not coming. I'm not inviting them. I'm not doing any of it. Like, it's just so much stress and hassle, man, I tell you. Am I in the wrong for jumping out of a bathroom window to avoid my mom's attempt at forcing a reunion between me and my ex-fiance? Some backstory. I had been dating my ex-fiance Sarah for 4 years. We had been planning to get married in November 2020, but I found out at the start of the month that she cheated on me. She begged me to give her another chance, but I broke it off. The problem was that being cheated on is, in my mind, completely emasculating and humiliating, so I never told anyone. That was the reason we broke up. For obvious reasons, Sarah also didn't tell people we broke up because she cheated. So people have blamed me for the breakup, including my mom. They just see that I dumped her out of the blue. I've gone very strict no contact with Sarah after I discovered she was cheating on me. Sarah has been talking with my mom and has convinced her that if we could talk one more time, we would be able to reconcile. My mom has been applying hardcore pressure on me to talk with Sarah, but I've explained that there's no chance we will ever get back together. So tonight, I go over to my mom's place because she's hosting family for Christmas Eve. I'm there for a bit talking with my aunts and uncles and cousins when the doorbell rings, and I can see it's Sarah. I ask what the frick is going on, and my mom says she invited Sarah so we can work this out in the spirit of the holidays. I'm pissed now because the only way to explain my side of the story is to tell everyone I was cheated on. Complete humiliation in front of my whole family. So as my mom goes to the front door, I go into the bathroom. My mom starts knocking on the door saying that I need to come out and talk to my ex like an adult. I say F it, kick out the window screen, and get in my car and go home. My mom called a short while ago saying she's cutting ties with me over my behavior. She's really fixated on me jumping out of a window, and that Sarah will always be like a child to her. My sister called me after to ream me out for ruining Christmas. I broke down and told her that Sarah cheated on me, which is why I dumped her and didn't want to see her under any circumstances. She called me a big a-hole who was lying to cover for myself. Am I really in the wrong? Not the a-hole, but dude, you gotta tell them why you're acting like this. People will certainly feel a bit sorry for you, but they'll realize why you don't want to be in the same room with this girl. Not the a-hole. Your family has some serious issues with boundaries, and Sarah needs to get the hint and go away. I don't think it's emasculating and humiliating to say that you got cheated on. None of that's your fault. That's not humiliating. That is depressing. If my best friend came up to me and told me that their girlfriend cheated on them while they were engaged, I wouldn't think that's humiliating. I would be in shambles for him. You know? It's just messed up. You gotta be front and tell people why you're feeling this way. I know as a man, it's really hard to communicate your feelings, but you gotta. I learned that the hard way. So you gotta do it, man. Am I the a-hole for refusing to tell my husband the gender of our baby after he skipped going to the doctor's appointment with me? My husband and I are expecting. This is our first baby and we're excited. Thing is, he barely attends any doctor's appointments with me and his excuses aren't even valid. He's willing to miss the doctor appointment over soccer or a drink or board game with friends. His response is always, I'm not the one carrying the baby. Why do I have to go see the doctor with you? Last week was my final straw. He was supposed to come with me for the baby's gender reveal appointment, but he chose not to come last minute because his friend invited him to fish and chips meal. I was pretty livid, but didn't make a fuss about it. My mom went with me instead. He texted asking me to tell him the results, boy or girl, but I refused to tell him. He kept spam calling me, but I hung up each time. He came home fuming, demanding I tell him the results, but I refused and bluntly told him, since he refused to attend the appointment, then he gets no results till after the baby's born, and said I was willing to die on this hill. He went off, calling me spiteful and immature for doing this, and punishing him. He said he's the father and has the right to know. He then called me dramatic since I wasn't alone and mom was with me. I said he gets no results, period. He's been fuming about it and told his family, and they're now pressuring me to stop playing mind games with him and tell him, but I declined. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Already a deadbeat dad before the baby's even born. He's literally prioritizing fish and chips over his unborn baby. Is this really who you want to raise a child with? Seriously. Like, what gives? I'm not a kids guy, but hey, if you're gonna have a baby with someone, you need to be supportive, all right? Step up. Am I wrong for using flashcards to explain to my brother and his wife why they can't bring their rainbow baby to my wedding? Oh my god. Okay. My fiance F and I, M, are getting married. We've decided wedding's gonna be child-free. No hate towards children, just keep it more organized and contained. My brother Chris, M, and his wife F have a 3-year-old son who everyone calls a miracle or rainbow baby. He came after several failed pregnancies that lasted for years. When they found out my nephew was included in the no children rule, they tried to convince me to make an exception for him. Chris told me his son is a miracle baby and his presence at the wedding will bring blessings for me and my fiance. I refused and said no. The wedding is child-free. His wife kept sending my fiance pics of my nephew when he was months old. What that mean? I told him no and to stop. My brother told me this might cause a rift in our relationship. I again said no and explained that the wedding is child-free. He asked again and pointed out how his baby is different since he's a rainbow, a miracle baby. I again said no and explained that the wedding is child-free. They brought it up when they visited at my home, and I knew they weren't going to stop, so I made flashcards in advance with the phrase, "The wedding is child-free, period," and pulled them out and started slowly showing them the flashcards one by one in this order. The wedding, with a sticker of the bride and the groom, is child, with a sticker of a baby, free, with a sticker of a crossed out sign, period, with a huge black dot sticker. They were both stunned. I asked if they get it now, and Chris had lost his crap. His wife had already grabbed her stuff and walked out. Chris called me an a-hole for doing this and said that I disrespected him, his wife, and their son, who's my one and only nephew. He rushed out after we argued. My fiance saw the whole thing and thought it was funny, but my parents and Chris are livid beyond measure. They're telling everyone about the amount of disrespect and mockery I had displayed towards them, and I'm being told to fix it now. Not the a-hole. That is goddamn hilarious. They kept pushing the boundary, and you held it firm in probably the funniest way possible. Should have told them all babies are miracles, but that you were having a miracle-free wedding. They're gonna bring the child to the wedding. Not if they're not invited, they're not. Am I the a-hole for suing my parents for my college money? My great aunt set up savings accounts for all of her female relatives. In our culture, education for women is not really valued, and she thought that was BS. She lived with her father in London where she was educated. She went on to attend university and became a doctor. She married a British man, they moved to America and had a great life. She funded the education of as many of her nieces and grandnieces as she could. When she passed away, she left money for every girl relative she could. My parents managed to access the accounts that were set up for my sister and I. They used it to pay for my brother's wedding. My sister didn't care because she got married 2 years out of high school and had no intention of going to college. When I graduated, I went to the bank to get money for school and it was almost all gone. There was like $13,000 left. I asked my parents about it and they said they needed the money. I finally found out where the money went. I got furious, I got student loans and moved out. I'm a great source of shame to them and I don't give two fricks. I'm currently suing them for the money that was left for me. My entire family is against me and they all think I'm a complete a-hole for airing private family business in public and that I'm putting money ahead of family. My friends are all on my side, but they are all Americans, so don't really get my culture. Neither do I, to be honest. My brother called me up and offered to pay for my university if I dropped the lawsuit. I agreed as long as we had a legally binding contract. He said I was being an a-hole for not trusting him. I said he should not have accepted my money for his wedding. It's causing all kinds of embarrassment in our community. I'm somewhat ashamed to be doing this, but I don't want to have this debt I should not have. Not the a-hole. Your parents stole from you. They're in the wrong no matter how uncomfortable that makes your family. I'm not a lawyer, but if you're in the middle of a lawsuit, it's probably not wise to discuss it on the internet. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Sue their greedy ass into the ground and good luck getting what you deserve. Spoken true. I really don't have anything else to add to that. How could you possibly think you're the a-hole trying to get money back that your parents stole from you that wasn't theirs? Am I in the wrong for throwing them out of the house that we own? Son and future in-laws decided to exclude his family from wedding. They thought son owned the house, not us. My wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in PA that my son lives in. Our son went to college in PA and wanted to stay in the area, so we bought the house as a second home. We live in New Jersey and commute to Manhattan for work. We figured that we would have a place to live and we could visit every so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services / maintenance on the house. Our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son meets a girl and they get serious. We meet her and she seems nice enough. They announce their engagement and she moves into the house with our son. Now for the problem, the wedding. We hold a little get-to-know-you barbecue at the PA house. My son and daughter are there and our son's fiance and her parents and sisters are there. We all seem to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, and the fiance go into the house along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and are really upset. They come over and tell me that we're leaving and we're driving back to New Jersey. I try to find out what happened, and once we get back to New Jersey and they calm down, they tell me that our son and his fiance, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, we're not their kind of people. I was livid. I called my son and asked him WTH this was about. He tells me that her family feel that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding, that we are all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the PA house. The new future in-laws are in in the house along with the fiance. It appears they are all moved into the house. They ask me why I'm there. I tell them that since we aren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They tell me to leave their house. I lost it and told them that they had 30 days to get out. Tell my son I'm selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of you. I go to a realtor in town and list the house for sale. They call my son at work and tell him what I said. Apparently, they thought that he owned the house. He calls me and asks why I'm selling his house. I tell him I paid for it along with the taxes on it and it's mine. He was living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I tell him the same as I told his future in-laws, that they have 30 days to get out and then I'll get a lawyer and get them evicted. Am I the a-hole for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to take over and we no longer count. Not the a-hole. They all moved into the house? That's so bizarre. Tell them they're not your kind of people, aka squatters. NTA, I actually find it hilarious. He's so entitled to the house he didn't even expect you to take it back after his actions. I believe this is exactly the reality check he needed. Not in the wrong. They're too good for you, but you're good enough to leech off of. They just lost a cushy situation. Am I the a-hole for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card? Throw away, because husband told me I was the a-hole and want to know before I get home and argue. On phone format is bad. I was in a higher end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to two teenage girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at the price tag and asked Boots girl if she's really going to spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine, I have my dad's credit card, I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times that he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud, but had to split up from the girl at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl was about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this and someone has to parent this kid if no one else will. I tell the cashier that that isn't her card, but her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was gonna throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card and it gives them points. Now that I pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that'll help. And I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business, that she's doing something illegal. She needs to pay with her own card or I call the cops. Girl's pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home, only for him to agree I was in the wrong. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Do you usually make a habit of sticking your nose into other people's business? You are the a-hole. You have no idea what agreement she has with her dad and you had no reason to interject yourself. You're the a-hole, but I get a feeling you're still gonna go home and argue with your husband about it and ignore everything you've learned here. Wow, finally. Someone's the a-hole. Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Nosy Nelly Karen lady. Get a job. Am I the a-hole for shouting at my ex in front of my daughters? I, 37M, have 3 girls, 8, 10, and 12. Their mother walked out on us for another man when our youngest was around 4. My ex still stays in contact though and pays child support. A few weeks ago while doing laundry, I saw red spots on my oldest's underwear. I asked her if she knew about it and she cried and told me she tried to call her mom, but my ex didn't call back. She'd been stuffing toilet paper in her underwear, hoping that would work. I explained to her that periods are nothing to be ashamed of and found some great resources online for us to review together. I took her to the store to pick out brands of feminine products she wanted to use. She picked Playtex Sport because she's a gymnast. After we were done, I decided I should do the same thing with my other 2. My 12-year-old volunteered to be a part of preparing them, and we made a whole night of it. It was wonderful, and I learned a lot. I even learned what a menstrual cup is and how they benefit the environment. The other day, my ex called back, and I'll usually arrange a video chat and leave the room so they can have some alone time, and when they're done chatting, I'll come back in to talk boring co-parenting stuff like school, bills, etc. This last time, my ex was furious with me for talking about periods with the girls. She shouted at me that I was sick and perverted. Why didn't I call her myself if I knew it was so urgent? I could have called one of their grandmas and aunts, but my mom has dementia, while her mom and sisters call me a loser because I teach kindergarten, so I'm not fond of them. My ex told me I was being immature and should have just toughed it out for the girls. This really pissed me off, so I shouted back that maybe if she wasn't such a deadbeat and answered her goddamn phone once in a while, she could have handled this. I brought up everything she does that hurts them. She hasn't been to a single soccer game, piano recital, or gymnastics meet in 2 years. Every other weekend when they come home from her house, they go straight to their rooms, only to emerge hours later asking me why she loves her new husband more than them. And what do they do to make her leave? My ex responded by saying I should tell them it's not their fault, I couldn't satisfy her, and I screamed, "Frick you!" And she just smirked and pointed behind me saying, "Look what you did." When I turned around, my 8-year-old and 10-year-old were standing in the doorway crying. It broke my heart, and I never shout, so I know I scared them. My 12-year-old stormed in and started screaming at her mom, and while I appreciate her sticking up for me, this is not a battle I want her fighting. My ex hung up before I could fully de-escalate the situation, and let's just say the girls have been given free reign of the ice cream and limitless hours of video games because I feel so bad. I haven't watched all the Twilight movies with them, so don't say I don't love them, but in this instance, am I the a-hole for shouting? Not the a-hole. And loads of single dads have to have the period kid talk. You rock for getting through all the Twilight movies with them. I couldn't even watch one. Not the a-hole. Your ex clearly doesn't give a frick about her kids, and if I were you, I would ask these kids how are things in mom's house. Sounds like a textbook case of neglect. Not the a-hole. It wasn't deliberate. Your ex is a terrible mother, and you sound like an exceptionally wonderful dad. I will never understand how some people can call single dads who give the period talk to their kids sick and perverted. If the mom's not going to be there to talk about the stuff that happens to her with the daughters, what do you expect to do? You're not a sick, perverted person for making sure that your daughters are okay when they have their period. It's not what we're fine. It's fine. It's chill. It's chill. I'm mad, but it's fine. Am I in the wrong for saying my babysitting rates are $35 an hour? I'm a software engineer with a full-time job and a side hustle of doing freelance coding work in my own time. I've always been the type to have a side hustle I put a lot of my free time into. I get really bored sitting idle. My freelance hourly rates are $60 an hour, and at my full-time job, my hourly pay works out to about $40. So that's how I value my time. Anyway, over Christmas vacation, I was staying at my parents' house, and my cousin was also staying over with their 3 young kids for Christmas to New Year's. I've been planning on doing some work on my freelance projects when I had free time, and in the morning, when my family had no plans. I wasn't in any rush, and I was already ahead of schedule on them all, but I didn't really have anything else to do. It was in a really rural area, and it's like an hour drive to the nearest anything. Then my cousin and her husband asked if I could babysit all day for 3 days, so they could visit some friends in the area and hang out with just adults. I said I had planned on doing freelance work at the library, and she offered to pay me to babysit. I said if they could get close to my freelance rates, she wanted a number, and although my freelance rates are $60, I didn't feel like that was right. It was high, but I didn't want to go too low, and honestly, babysitting 3 kids would be harder for me than the routine coding work I had for my freelance project. I don't know a lot about kids, and I've never babysat for long, and I had a feeling it would be stressful and difficult, so I said 35, which is below what I make hourly at work. What is the bare minimum I'd value my time for, if that time is spent doing difficult work? And she went crazy at me, saying that's a ridiculous rate for babysitting and that I was entitled and being selfish, that I'm trying to take advantage of how she didn't have other options, etc. I said that's way below what I'd be making if I had time to do my own work, and I'd be putting off my own work to babysit. Her husband then got mad at me, saying that I was a 24-year-old girl, that I'm damn near a child myself, and that my time is not worth that much, and it's childish to say that it was, and that I was a stupid girl for not knowing that babysitting costs like $15 an hour. When I grew up and have kids of my own, I will see how stupid I was being. I was kind of done with being called stupid, so I just told them I hope they could find someone else. My mom thinks that I asked for something offensive, and my cousin and her husband obviously did too. Am I the a-hole for giving that number? Not the a-hole. 3 kids all day for 3 straight days? Even real babysitters would charge more than $15 for 3 kids. Obviously they wanted you to do it as a favor and got upset that you treated it as an actual job. Not the a-hole, because asking a kid who is also on vacation to watch your kids for 3 days is kind of crappy. An evening? Sure, but 3 whole days is crazy. Not the a-hole. You are the only one who can put a price on your time because it's coming from your own life. Yeah, I mean, cut and dry, for real. I wouldn't babysit 3 kids for 3 days for $15 an hour. Hell no. I don't know if I could reasonably say 35 because I don't make that much in my own time, but like 25 probably is what I would start at. You know, like, geez. Am I in the wrong for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17F sister, 34F, called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needs to get there ASAP and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over, if he was home, and she said that he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to go ask their dad to make them a snack since the baby had a blowout and it was going to take a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too and that he's a useless effing father and a husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me that I was disrespectful and didn't understand how hard parenting is. I told him clearly he doesn't understand how hard it is either, since he considers parenting his own children babysitting. He ended up kicking me out and apparently my sister was forced to come home because he told her she needed to figure it out since I'm her sister. I feel like I may be the a-hole because my sister's mad at me, her husband is mad at me, and my mom is mad at me for causing drama. But my dad thinks it's funny and agrees with me. I definitely didn't need to call him names, but I just hate this guy so much. We have argued about things in the past as well, so we already don't have a great relationship. My sister's saying I need to apologize to him, and he is threatening to never let me into the kids' lives if I keep disrespecting him. Not the a-hole. Your sister should be mad at her husband for literally not taking care of his own kids. He was already in the house, but she called you instead? Make it make sense. Not the a-hole. I knew everything I needed to know by the he doesn't want to babysit line. Not the a-hole. Her husband sounds like a deadbeat, and you were right to call him out. I would have left the instant I saw him home. Am I the a-hole for firing an employee after his parents died? Bro. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out, fellas. Let's hear what he's got to say. I'm the VP of sales at a software company, and one of our sales development reps' parents passed away at the beginning of April. Sadly, they were involved in a car crash and both lost their lives. Now, the employee in question is a very young 22-year-old guy and has been with us for about 10 months now. He's a great employee, and we were thinking about promotions in the next 6 months for him. His job is a high-paying one for a new grad, about $90K with commission and base, so we expect a lot from this position. Because of the accident, we let him take 1 month paid leave of absence from work, and he's returned a few weeks ago, and his performance is severely lacking. He's super unmotivated, not cold calling, outreaching to prospects for the last 2 to 3 weeks enough since he's come back. Our whole management team has noticed this, and we decided to let him go because we feel like he'd need months and months to be able to produce again, and we can't just wait that long. We called him into a meeting on Friday afternoon and gave him the bad news, and he was very calm and rude about it. Told us to go F ourselves and got up and went to his desk and grabbed his things and left. I thought this was very, very unprofessional and extremely rude. I told my boyfriend about all of this, and he said myself and my management team are a bunch of asses and with no hearts. Am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. Generally, people receive a warning about their performance before they get fired. You gave him bereavement leave and then fired him immediately after because he wasn't performing. You're the a-hole in the most complete sense of the phrase. Yeah, okay. I said hear him out. We shouldn't have heard him out because Jesus Christ. Not a warning, not a coaching session or something. Straight from bereavement back to work to fired? What the hell? What the hell? That is not okay. I hope that guy sues you. Seriously. Wrongful termination for sure. Am I the a-hole for speaking Italian to my GF's rude Italian American family and embarrassing them? Recently, I started dating a girl. She's great and I love her so much. I met her family a few nights ago for dinner and she warned me that the male side of her family is very big into being macho and detesting the boys the women date and are very big on take pride in their Italian ancestry. I think besides the grandfather. However, they were almost all born in Bergen County, New Jersey. But whatever, it's nice to take pride in one's heritage. Long story short, at dinner, they kept making jokes at my expense. I honestly would not call it bullying, just things about my height, beard, shaved head, yada yada. They tried to make fun of my IT job too, but stopped once I told them my income. It was overall not a bad experience, but also not a pleasant one. Anyway, her brother kept pushing things, giving me exceptional amounts of crap for playing lacrosse in high school. Apparently it's a sport for prissy rich kids, and not manly like football or baseball. He ended his rant by saying, hey, we're just a big Italian family. We're loud and tell it how we see it. Ha 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 ha. And all the family except my girlfriend laughed, so I, for the next minute, responded to everything they said in Italian. My girlfriend buried her head in shame. The grandfather laughed and everyone else kept looking at each other confused before telling me they didn't speak Italian. I replied, then don't use your Italian heritage as an excuse to behave poorly when you can't even speak the language. They got mad, but the grandfather told them all I was right and to be quiet. My girlfriend isn't mad, just ashamed, and I think the grandfather likes me, but word from my GF sister is that all the men are furious. I think I'm a smartass and that I disrespected them and their masculinity in an unforgivable way. So, am I the a-hole? Lamau. The pure savagery from what you said and did is so golden. You totally won the heart of your GF's grandfather, and I wish I had that kind of grandfather, but mine is an a-hole. You and your GF are lucky to have each other, not the a-hole, sending good vibes. Not the a-hole. It sounds like the boys were hoping to put you through a hazing ritual, and you weren't biting it, them in their place. And Grandpa approved. Nah, bro, you're not the a-hole here. Putting Italian New Jersey folk in their place, I would pay to see that happen in real time. Am I the a-hole for making a scene of my adult son and sticking my nose in his marriage? Here's the important background. My daughter-in-law, 32, and son, 33, have 3 children aged 3, 2, and 4 months. He convinced her to be a stay-at-home mom and sell her business by telling her how good of a childhood he had and how happy my marriage was without telling her, which I found out today. That our arrangement was everything before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. was split 50-50. Sunday was my day off and I was brought out twice a week. On to the story. On my last visit, I noticed my daughter-in-law was struggling mentally, so I, my sister, 55F, and her girlfriend, 53, pulled our money together and paid for a spa weekend for them while we babysit the kids for her birthday last weekend. I was preparing on Thursday evening for the kids to arrive when my daughter-in-law rang me holding back tears saying that we won't be going because my son's friend came to town and he said he wanted to spend the weekend with his friends catching up. I pressed her a little, and I'm talking a little about her situation, and she came clean about him doing no chores, no date nights, and her basically doing all of the childcare because that's what stay-at-home moms do. I was honestly disgusted, and I convinced her to drop me off the kids and bring a friend to the spa. I even dipped into my savings to give her $500 to buy herself something nice. When she dropped me off the kids, I begged her to tell me where her son was. After 5 minutes, she told me the bar. She left for the spa while I left for the bar. She knew I was going there and knew my sister/my sister-in-law were taking care of the kids. Here's where I might be the a-hole. When I go to the bar where he and his friends were, I sat down next to the group and asked my son, did I fail you as a mother or was it your father? Because we both thought your partner comes before your silly drunk friends. The post is getting long enough, but long story short, I humiliated him and got myself banned from a bar. My daughter-in-law said she will be taking the kids to her parents when she gets back tomorrow, and my son is calling me an a-hole for humiliating him and sticking my nose in his marriage. Maybe I should have stayed out. I don't know. Not the a-hole, but your son sounds like an a-hole. He convinced her to become a a stay-at-home mom so he could avoid being a dad? Not the a-hole. Good on you for sticking up for your daughter-in-law. Your son needs a serious reality check. 3 babies and all the chores? He's nuts. Not the a-hole. Your son needed to hear this. Bad behavior from the son. The son, marriage is a commitment. Having kids together is a commitment. And if you don't want to be committed to having kids, don't have kids. And don't put it all on your wife because you think that she can be a stay-at-home mom while you do nothing. It's messed up. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my artist hid their initials in my tattoo? I went to a tattoo shop in my area with a photo of the tattoo I wanted. It was one my dad had gotten to honor my past grandfather, whose father also had it. But the point is, it was important to me that the tattoo looked exactly as it did in the photo. I get to the shop and I explain everything, and I pay, get the tattoo, and we're done. I think it looks awesome. Everything's great until a few weeks later when I show my great-grandmother the tattoo. She's static, grab my arm to look at and compliment it, and then asks, "Who's AJ?" I asked her what she means, and she points out on the tattoo where the initials A and J, or maybe T, were hidden into the tattoo. I'm instantly pissed, as my artist name is Alice Trevor. She tries to assure me it's no big deal if I hadn't noticed it until now, but I still reached out to the artist, sort of irritated. They told me the style of art I got is called traditional, and it's pretty trad for all artists who do that style to do it. I demand a partial refund, and they refuse, so I complain to the owner, who made the artist give me a full refund. Now the artist is running a full smear campaign, talking about moving shops and is all kinds of crap. My sister says I'm an a-hole for pushing the issue, but I feel like at the end of the day, I told you exactly what I wanted and you didn't do that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This person straight up branded you. Not only that, this isn't even the artist's design. It's a copied design. Not the a-hole. Tattoo artists don't get to sign their work because their canvas is a human being. This is known. This is conventionally understood. Not the a-hole. I've been tattooing for almost 20 years and this is something you never do. WTF? Am I the a-hole for not saying anything about the underwear? Ominous, but okay. My 20-year-old daughter and her fiance are currently staying with us, and I love my daughter, but she is very difficult and I can't stand her fiance. I gave them a deadline to move out because I can't take it anymore. They got into massive fights the other day while my wife was out, and I guess a pair of my wife's underwear got in with their laundry, and she thought he was cheating. I think the fact she immediately jumped to cheating shows how bad their relationship is. She was waving the underwear around, and I recognized them because they had a floral print, but I just let this ridiculous fight go on. My wife came home after about 30 minutes and said they were hers. My wife asked if I didn't realize they were hers, and I accidentally laughed. My daughter burst into tears and won't talk to me. Her fiance said we're fricked and left the house, but my wife thought it was funny. Not the a-hole. If your first thought is cheating, not the other woman that lives in this house, you've got issues. You are the a-hole. I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to let her fiance get yelled at and accused of cheating for a simple mistake. There is literally no reason to not point out it was your wife's underwear. Everybody sucks here. Their relationship is bad, but it sounds like you were basically going, I guess this is my soap opera for today. Why would I say anything to stop it? That's pretty toxic too, mate. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're kind of being an a-hole. No matter how toxic their relationship is, you have no reason to purposely make it worse. It's messed up. Am I the a-hole for making fun of a white girl for being poor because she was being racist? I'm Asian. More specifically, one of the only Chinese people in my grade, which has been absolutely fun these days. So the girl in question has been racially harassing me since the beginning of lockdown, and when she DM'd me and said, "Did the bat taste good? Thanks a lot, you freaking freak," I reported her to my school, and they literally just dropped it because they said tensions were high and she couldn't be blamed because her uncle had corona, some BS like that. Then I got repeated messages like that from fake/newly created accounts that I suspect were from her, and I just keep blocking them until I guess she gave up because I wasn't reacting. My school district has chosen to do in-person, massively dumb IMO, but whatever. On the literal second day of school, she walks up to me while I'm in lunch line and says in a thick Asian accent, "Are you eating bat dumpling or dog noodle?" Other people around me freaking laughed, and I'm sure I don't have to explain this, but I felt freaking humiliated. It finally felt like I got off her back for a little while, and she comes back as soon as school starts, and I already know my school administration isn't going to go to bat for me. I don't know a lot about this girl, since obviously I try to avoid her, but I did know that she had bad teeth, lived in a trailer, and was very poor. I'm ashamed to have stooped to this, but I just wanted to show her how I felt for once. So I said, I'd be less concerned with what I'm eating if I were you, and more worried about your diet, since you're the one who needs to figure out how to brush your teeth in a trailer with no running water. Stop trying to get sent to the hospital when you can't afford healthcare. Other students nearby told me I went too far because it wasn't her fault she was poor, like it was my fault I was Asian. She literally cried, like I didn't cry every time she called me an effing C-slur. She's left me alone since then though, which doesn't matter since I plan on transferring anyways. Not the a-hole. Yeah, two wrongs don't make a right, but this was the only way to get her to STFU. Don't dish stuff out if you can't take stuff back. If racist you be, get no sympathy from me. I think that's poetry for not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You went through the appropriate channels and were ignored. You did what you had to do to protect yourself. I agree. If someone's gonna make fun of you for being a race, a specific race, for being Chinese, you can go to bat and make fun of them for being poor. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Am I the a-hole for taking back the beer I bought for a party from which I was uninvited? This happened just a few hours ago. I'm 19-year-old 18-year-old man, and the people calling me an a-hole are 18-year-old men and women. On Thursday, a person I had a major crush on in high school, but who rejected me, messaged me out of the blue. She had never contacted me without me contacting her first, and at one point I realized she had me blocked on social media, and so I found it odd that she was suddenly being friendly. After sending a couple of greetings and questions about how I've been, she said that she was going to have some people over and wanted to know if I would get the beer. The drinking age where we are is 19, and she and the people who were going to chill were all 18. The liquor stores in my area all card. I thought it was silly that me being a month older meant I could go buy liquor and they couldn't, and so I said I would love to go. She said thanks, I'll pick you up at 7. 7 o'clock rolled around and she texted me to say she was in front of my house. I went out dressed and ready to chill with some people, and she drove me to the liquor store, and when we got there, I asked what beer she wanted me to get, and she told me to get Budweiser. I hid my disappointment as well as I could, but it was her party, so I went in and bought 2 cases of 24. I got back in the car and said, let's party, and she was eerily quiet. I noticed that she wasn't driving towards her neighborhood, but rather back to mine. I thought she had moved or something, but didn't want to press the issue. When she turned down my street, I finally figured it out. She was being purposely vague about the invitation because she wanted me to get the beer, but she wanted a way out when she told me I wasn't actually invited in the first place. She stopped in front of my house, leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said thanks in her best voice. I deadpanned her and asked when she was going to tell me I wasn't invited. She feigned surprise and said that she never intended to invite me in the first place. I sat in silence for a long, awkward minute, picked up the beer, and walked towards my front door. She got out of her car and frantically tried to re-invite me to the party, but I told her that what she did was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. I opened my front door, slammed it a bit too hard, and came back to my room. Now I'm sitting here drinking absolute unpalatable water and have a text message from all of her friends and her asking me why I'm being such a d***. I don't think I'm the a-hole for reacting the way I did, but if you haven't figured it out, I'm not amazing socially, so I'm not sure. Am I here? Not the a-hole. I would have loved to see her face when you took the beer with you. Good for you. FYI, if you have a decent skillet, you can cook some bratwurst in those beers, cook down the remaining liquid into a syrup, and add it to some mustard for a really tasty meal. The best possible fate for those beers. How is this a question? If they want you to buy alcohol for their party and not invite you to their party, and you don't give them the beer, you're not the a-hole. They are the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for not letting my miracle baby niece be my flower girl at my wedding? My 27F older brother and sister-in-law, both mid-30s, just welcomed their first child a year and a half ago. After years of trying, after many failed attempts, sister-in-law was told that she wouldn't be able to conceive due to a medical condition she has. They finally got pregnant. Since having my niece, the baby has been the center of attention at every family, even we've had since she was born. Birthdays, weddings, family get-togethers, you name it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my niece, but it can get to be a little too much when my sister-in-law goes on and on about how long they've tried to conceive, complications they've had, miscarriages they've had, etc. Like a little too much info. Many family members have commented on how it's a little bit excessive, but no one has said anything because they don't want to sound like an a-hole. Anyway, I'm getting married in the spring, and my brother and sister-in-law approached me last weekend about having my niece be the flower girl. Now, my fiance, 35M, has 2 children, 10M and 6F, from his previous marriage. His son is one of the groomsmen, while his daughter had asked to be our flower girl, and we told them the news that we are getting married a year ago. As it's something she always wanted to do, of course we said yes. So I explained this to my sister-in-law when she asked about my niece. She asked if my stepdaughter can just carry my niece with her. I said I don't think she'd be comfortable with that considering she's 6. She then asked why I can't give the role to my niece and allow her to carry my niece down as the flower girl. I said no because I already promised my stepdaughter. She then started going off about how my lack of effort to incorporate my niece is disgusting to her and I should honor her in some way since I know how long and how hard they tried for my niece. Now I may sound like an a-hole for this, but I kind of got fed up and snapped and said, incorporate my niece how? By the time the wedding comes around, she'll be 2 years old. The entire family already knows your story about how long and how hard you guys tried for her. What more do you expect me to do to honor her? She started crying and said that clearly I don't love my one and only niece and I'm letting her down. I said of course I love my niece and obviously she's getting to be involved in pictures and stuff, but I'm not going to let my stepdaughter down by giving my niece a role she's too young to remember anyway. Well now, my sister-in-law and my brother are pissed off with me for not letting my niece be flower girl and are running around telling the rest of the family I don't love my niece. My mom had been trying to stay neutral but thinks my stepdaughter would understand if I explained to her I need to give the role to my niece. I'm firm in my decision though, and my fiance is thankful that I didn't let his daughter down. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my niece to be the flower girl? Not the a-hole, she's their miracle baby, not yours. The fact that they want you to disappoint your soon-to-be stepdaughter in order to make their daughter the focus of your wedding is absurd. Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your choice. Your sister-in-law is lucky you didn't say no children under X age because that is becoming super popular. That it will. When I get married, there's not going to be kids allowed at the wedding. I don't want kids at my wedding. What the hell? Not the a-hole, by by the way. Am I in the wrong for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29F, dated a guy, Joe, 30M, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim, 30F. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, and now I'm at 24 weeks, and I let him know he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he's always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and she wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to go to a home birth, that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half the week, and that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body, and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texting me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and bitching about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. At the virtual genetics counseling appointment she attended instead of Joe and took over the whole meeting trying to talk about her family history, which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest, and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming and found out the gender because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put up a pregnancy announcement on my social media, and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins, the non-traditional way, and how blessed she was. I was irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media, and I wasn't even invited. Wow. She also announced that she's having a baby shower. I commented on her post and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, and that the kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they're born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court, and that my mother would be my birthing partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an a-hole, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies like this is a parent trap. So am I the a-hole? Get a lawyer ASAP. This woman is crossing so many boundaries, and she's not even Joe's wife. Not the a-hole. Lawyer up and keep all the records and messages you can.